Hi, I'm sorry for the text-to-speech.
Actually, no, I'm not. F you.
I had 2 focal seizures in the same week around 3 weeks ago or so, and one of the side effects had been impairing my ability to speak coherently. After the side effects wore off, I was finally getting ready to read until I realized I can't f***ing read anyways.
Legal disclaimer. All parties mentioned are innocent until proven guilty by court of law. But fuck! Okay. Parties have made about Daisy/Cupidite, aka me, as well as your partner Safari/Clan Covion. What? Okay, right, I'm done. We're done.
So yeah, you have AI generated Cupidite for this video. I will try my best to make this video entertaining regardless. Let's continue. Legal disclaimer, all parties mentioned are innocent until proven guilty by court of law. Before reading, please take note of these contents, they are important. This video covers the recent claims that YummiCactus, JuniDrawz, and various other parties have made about Daisy/Cupidite, as well as their
ex-partner,
Safari/Grand Flovian. Please refrain from harassing both the document creators, as well as the other parties mentioned. Please pay attention when reading and listening. This is not a situation to have bias in, as the claims being made are in a legal territory. With this being said, disregard your biases if possible. Trigger warning. Mentions of grooming, philia, CS/exam, fascism, etc. People who worked on the video and document includes, but are not limited to.
Change of plans. I was going to add everyone individually, but it's taking up too much time, so here you go.
Everyone else mentioned will remain anonymous as they are not significant to name in this case. Disclaimer, I do not reveal these people's identities because they believe they were victimized, harmed, abused, etc. I reveal them not only as I believe they should be criticized for their heavy, and yes, relevant, wrongdoings, but legally, I'm allowed to use their online personas in this document due to this potentially becoming a case of defamation/libel. Criticism is appreciated if genuinely constructive. However, if you have only hateful forms of criticism, please do not express them publicly. This improves nothing you wanted to. It only makes things look worse, and it does mess up the process legally, and yes, the authorities are aware of everything. And please, for the love of God, read the document. It does get lengthy, but I wouldn't be writing or explaining this much if I wasn't innocent. You would think there is no way to defend or explain any of these claims, but the point of this isn't to whine and complain, it's to do just that. Defend, explain, and ultimately, debunk. And for those confused on the meaning of debunk, here is the textbook definition. To expose the hollowness or falsehoods of something. By definition, this is a debunk. It doesn't mean every last thing is completely false. It does mean some are misconstrued, downright lies, or twisted to personal narrative. Especially the illegal claims. Get both sides of the story. If you can listen to Yummy and Juni, you can listen to me. This is beyond controversy and drama, this is real life now. If you would like to contact me, email me at salukisavia@proton.me or wait patiently for my return. I will be taking a break to both take action legally and perform some sort of damage control on the situation and my private life. I will not be touching social media for a hot minute. It has gotten to the point where my family has been targeted. With all of this being said, thank you, and let's continue. This situation occurred August 2nd, 2024. I was 15. On this day, I was watching a popular YouTuber by the name of Moist Critical. I do not remember the specific video, however I'm certain that this information isn't crucial whatsoever due to the comments I'm about to mention popping up in all of his comment sections. Not this specific video. What am I speaking of? UTTP bots. If you aren't aware of what these are, then here is a brief explanation. Here are some resources regarding this group. I've also included a video by Moist Critical himself to show I'm not making what I witnessed up. I'm not the only victim of this. Keep in mind, when I discovered these accounts existed, I was not aware of the fact they distributed illegal content for shock value. I had heard of mentions of them previously, but my only knowledge was that they were a troll group. I also did not know this account was specifically a UTTP bot at first, because there was no indication of such. The bot in question had a PFP of the MrBeast logo with a map flag behind it. I do not remember the exact username, but I do remember it mentioning Avacrease Tyson. Again, to my knowledge I assumed this was a harmless, edgy stunt. I believe this comment said my content is better than Moist Critical's. Being curious, I clicked this profile, wondering why they were supposedly so much better than the YouTuber I was watching, again not taking it very seriously due to the assumption it was a harmless troll. The account had one video, and the title displayed a collection of various characters, almost like a keyboard spam. X, Act 3 KFC 2 Cags 3 E4 or something of that nature. I clicked on this video, still under the presumption it would be harmless. The visuals were incredibly distorted, as well as the audio. Now, I'm going to clear up a common misconception. No, the video was not clear enough to tell what was going on. One of my peers made a lovely comparison to visualize this. Take this distorted, heavily filtered image of something random. What if I told you this was simply an image of a dog hopping? Obviously, the visuals aren't exactly on par, but it does give insight into how distorted the video was. Nobody, not even the people in the server world, have been able to make out the contents of this, except me, and even then this still took over a minute for me to decipher. Now, at this time still unaware of the contents, I sent this YouTube video link into my small server. This server was strictly for my close friends, and due to me, no sugarcoating haha, being incredibly chronically online, I felt the need to send this, and ping everyone. I stated something along the lines of me being curious on what I was looking at. It was also more in a satirical tone, given the profile picture and name. It was not a specific instance though. My point is, that I would share all of my activities, and findings with them. I mean hell, they were my only friends at the time. This wasn't anything inherently malicious. It also kind of makes more sense to send something like that to a private server. I mean hell, it's not every day you see a bot with a Mr. Beast map PFP. It's peculiar enough to show interest. Upon reviewing the video again, I noticed something off that I hadn't noticed before. I took a screenshot of a frame and traced what I perceived to be a child's silhouette, the action still indiscernible. To provide context, I'm a victim of being shown clips from the very video I'm being accused of distributing. In 2023, while I was being subjected to mass grooming and abuse by an online fascism cult, one of my groomers, whose name I withhold due to intense distress and paranoia, showed me a clip of this infamous video. These two groups collaborated to dismantle my already fragile innocence. The cult's tactics will be further detailed in the Nazism section. This is not something I asked for whatsoever, and I still suffer from this memory. It makes me feel filthy to have to relive this every 2 months. I got away from him mid-2024, barely a few months before this situation occurred. I was a victim of a genuine adult predator showing me this in early 2024. This is why I would been the only one able to potentially identify what was behind the distortion. I was the only one subject to seeing a clip. Admittedly, I have not clarified this until now, due to lacking the time and mental capabilities to genuinely process the event. It's possible I was getting ahead of myself. Even after I attempted to make out what I was seeing, the witnesses present at the time stated they couldn't see the comparison I was making. The correlation could have been a great coincidence with what I perceived. The clip I was victim to seeing was not in the same position as what I supposedly was tracing over. I apologize for being more descriptive, but I'm legally obligated to clarify my innocence, so please bear with me. The reason I believe this might have been an incredible coincidence, rather than simply imagining, is because of what happened next. Two of my peers that have testified, and I will include this, clicked on the catbox.mo file in the description. For context, catbox.mo is a file hosting site. Think of a visual pasta bin, or Inga. The fear was in fact confirmed, with them panicking and notifying me it was in fact a full, uncensored MP4 of the media I was accused of distributing. Upon being notified of this, I purged the channel immediately and went to their EMS to figure out how to submit a subvertives proof. As we can see here, the video was reported to the authorities. Everyone in the server agreed that it was a very traumatic situation for all, and we agreed to not bring it up after the event as it was rightfully reported. There was quite literally no reason to bring this back up if legal action was taken. In early February, estimated to be the 6th or so, I criticized Yummy's call out on an individual by the name of Jimbo Jimmy. They responded, making fun of me. I wasn't very bothered as it was typical internet stuff. I found out a few days later, Yummy was dating another creator I wasn't exactly fond of, JuniDrawz. I jokingly commented mid-dating mid on JuniDrawz post. This marks the start of the YummiCactus drama. The individual in this censored screenshot is a person known as
Anal Bones. Text-to-speech pronounced it as anal bonus, so there's that.
A notorious pro-necrophiliac groomer. This individual is recognized for influencing children as young as 13 or 14 to adopt harmful pro-paraphilia beliefs, specifically necrophilia. When I was notified of the things they were claiming, I messaged Yummy right away. This would make the first instance of me contacting Yummy first. This is proof that what he claimed was cleared up beforehand. He still posted the video. I then responded with nearly the same story I have now. Here is proof, my first response video. He never clarified the misconceptions, even after the video was made. It took him until July to finally take it down due to us making a silence agreement that I will be bringing back up later. Common misconceptions or flat out lies. The first one is that the channel was purged to hide any evidence of it happening. This quite literally makes no sense. Obviously, I'm going to purge a channel if I was notified an attachment had an uncensored file to the most notorious hardcore film known to man. I'd only cleared that channel, nothing more. I can verify this, as the server it happened in is still up. It is only archived. Here is visual proof, us conversing about the incident not even 30 minutes after it. The second claim is that I downloaded/saved this file. I did not download this, or have this saved as claimed. This is just a flat out lie. I did not give any indication to doing so, rather the contrary with me purging the entire channel. I didn't even click the link in the description to begin with. I'm unsure of where this claim came from. The third is that this was the second instance of me distributing this. I will say this is a misconception, and I see why some would be confused seeing this. As seen here, Anon states it's the second time something like this has happened. Not the second time I've sent the infamous film, because that is not true. This is the only instance of this happening. The first instance they are talking about is the Prim situation, and I will be speaking about that in the third subtab, May 2024 situation. The fourth, and ultimately stupidest, is that I named myself after this material. In Yummy's document, there is a screenshot where my usernames are set as Daisy's DON and Daisy's construction. Let me get a few things straight. First of all, this screenshot is just downright faked. This is a DM nickname, not a name I set myself. Discord has an option to give people on your friends list nicknames. One of my ex-peers, who I will name Blue, maliciously sent this to Miloguts, another contributor on the document. Nolo was fully aware of this not actually being my username, as Blue sent me them discussing it in a group chat. It was also cleared up after the document according to Anonymous, but they have yet to speak on it publicly, leaving viewers under the impression that not only I'm a CP fiend, but I appear to be a big fan of it, even being named after it. Very obviously sarcasm, but I will also clarify what my name came from. I changed my name to Daisy in 2022, after watching Girl Interrupted, and this is publicly known. I did not get my name from CS, nor was it ever my display name. I have not spoken to Anonymous since, as I'm still very hurt by what they've done. Even if Nilla was not aware of this being a username, it is still negligence as they read a baseless claim without verifying it. This situation was handled so stupidly. If these claims were true, I'm quite unsure why it took 9 months to finally report to the authorities. All of the evidence provided was hearsay from people who have expressed disdain for me previously. Primavera, also known as Prim, PJ, or Lanessamatika, is a former friend from whom I distance myself from due to her incredibly harmful and downright illegal actions towards both me and others. While I'm uncertain of her exact age, it's estimated she is between 16 and 18. Primavera has a history of changing her age based on circumstance. Here are 2 instances that raise concerns. Example 1. Prim explicitly instructing one of her victims to misrepresent her age, seemingly to prevent scrutiny regarding their questionable dynamic and age difference. Example 2. In 2024, her server offered an 18+ option. While it's plausible she added this option while underage, it's difficult to accept given her history of dishonesty about such details and inconsistent timelines. These are not the only instances. She claimed she was 16 in 2024, then 12, then 13, so on so forth. It was all sporadic. I do not dive into her background as a point to redirect attention to her, but because, not only is she a danger to others, she has proven to be an incredibly unreliable narrator. She has a history of manipulating people, even Yummy, as seen here. Side note, here is me notifying JuniDrawz of how disgusting Prim is. And no, I will not sugarcoat the fact that I insulted Yummy's intelligence for contacting a party publicly known only for their outrageous actions against others. As someone personally harmed by them, I'm entitled to my emotions. If I previously warned you about their character and you deliberately ignored it simply because of your hatred towards me, unfortunately, I will not offer my assistance. This is the same stance Yummy took with me when I confided in him about the harm Prim inflicted upon me. Juni and Yummy claim, in the document I sent no proof, yet there isn't a single lick of evidence where he asks for this. I find it concerning that you would side with an alleged groomer you haven't even spoken to over a victim who informed you beforehand. Prim has a long history of pathological lying, evident in her general behavior. Her lies range from her race, claiming to be black, Asian, white, Mexican, and ultimately all four, to faking schizophrenic episodes that supposedly make her strip naked in alleyways and speak different languages, such as Latin. She has faked committing suicide and messaged her victim from a fake phone number claiming it was his fault for coming out about her abuse against him. I do not have access to this evidence as of now, but I will assure you it does exist. As soon as I'm able to reach this archive, I will edit the document accordingly. She has also lied about her sex, claiming to be intersex with male genitalia, while simultaneously stating she is biologically female. This is incredibly disrespectful to the intersex community. It is different from saying you're a male when you're female and vice versa. Intersex is an umbrella term for individuals who have innate sex characteristics which do not conform to medical and societal norms about biological sex, and as such are vulnerable to stigma and discrimination. Furthermore, Prim has fabricated past experiences to gain sympathy, even inventing personas for abusers to justify her own actions. Please brace yourself for what I'm about to show. Prim had been in a relationship with a 13-year-old in 2024. Again, we are unsure of her actual age, but I do have an admission of her thinking that said 13-year-old were attractive due to their age. This is not normal for someone that was supposedly in the same age range. Here is Prim pressuring said 13-year-old to send explicit material of themselves. No, I do not know why they decided to take a screenshot with the call along, but the full message says, "Are you just curious about how it looks?" The victim's account was banned, so we cannot retrieve the entire log unless Prim herself hands it over. Prim's plans with her 13-year-old victim, bro. Prim telling me how she willingly watched Zeus because she's just a girl. Her partner, Macintosh, at the time was estimated to be 2 years older than her. Keep this in mind. When confronted, her claims shifted. She developed a fascination with the at age 10. An adult groomer named David introduced her to this content, contradicting an earlier statement that Macintosh showed her. She poorly worded asking her then partner to show her SEM, claiming she was referring to someone else. She claims to dislike, not refuse to watch. Yeah, not due to the act itself, but because the women performing the harm against the innocent, unsuspecting animals are ugly. She admits to actively searching for this content 3 times in this single screenshot. David is a fictitious persona. This is another one of her fabricated pity personas, created to justify her pursuit of illegal content involving children. Her true age at this time remains unknown. Her explanations for encountering these terms have evolved. First claim, her boyfriend, Mac, searched for it at her explicit request. Second claim, David, her in real life groomer, showed it to her when she was 10. Third claim, her elementary school assailant showed it to her. She is also lying about being physically disabled for life here. The entire reason we fell out in the first place is because when I had a suicide attempt, she decided it'd be good to lie about jumping off of a 12-story building and having a lung punctured and 6 ribs broken because she was upset I overdosed. I was literally fine before she claimed to do this. Need I mention, she also claims my suicide attempt was falsified? This entire situation was a disgusting, apathetic way to get attention. Prim came out as a Ellen's style because my educational paraphilia video helped her come to terms. The problem is she has acted on these thoughts more than enough times. Other things Primavera has done, threatened to Pierre's pets and brothers, has made false animal abuse and claims about me, has said I raped my rapist, taken advantage of my mania, plus shaming me for having intercourse before marriage. Topping off the shit cake, excuses it by saying I'm manic too. I know you guys won't like this one. Drawn shotgun and send it to her 13-year-old victim. Drawn extremely graphic scat porn of people she doesn't like, obviously with them having no knowledge. Debated to her unsuspecting 12-year-old's face. Sent gore, scat, nudity of 12-year-olds, and prolapse porn to her victims, as masturbated in Discord voice calls with people as young as 11 and 12. I was also a victim of this. Side note, she has harassed and threatened the then 12-year-old for coming out about this. Has sent her genitalia to me without consent. This is not even half of the things she's done, nor the crime she's committed. She has been reported to Cybertips, and we are working on getting her investigated. This is not someone you want to be trusting whatsoever. Not only has she admitted to doing heinous things, she has lied about numerous things. She is using this situation to grab attention, not to spread awareness. The March 2024/Prim situation. To begin, it is established that Prim has a notable history with hypersexuality. This is stated not to assign blame, but to provide essential context. Albeit, this particular situation is straightforward, and the provided messages will speak for themselves. On March 5th, 2024, I was openly discussing / and boasting about scamming pedophiles in my now deleted Discord server. At the time, I viewed this as an act of justice, preventing people who harm children from using their money to cause further damage. It was also an advantage for me, as it was my only source of income besides commissions. Crucially, I was 15 years old. My relevant personal history included being a victim of abuse and extortion. This activity was not new to me, I had been doing it since I was 13. Here is me, a month before telling one of my peers of what I was doing, again with no warning to stop. I saw no ethical conflict, because the adults around me not only failed to tell me it was wrong, but actively encouraged it. I recall doing this, even while on calls with my therapist. The collective goal was purely to financially hurt the predators, which no one around me viewed as wrong. If I were an adult working with law enforcement, the activity would have been safer and less criticized. The real danger laid in the fact that I was a child potentially endangering myself, regardless of whether I used my own photos or not. I initially learned about this method from the popular YouTuber YummiCactus, and will link the video that introduced me to it. I apologize for making this site known. Again, it is crucial to prove my innocence and intentions. My intention was never to create mischief. In fact, the opposite was true, as I will explain shortly. Prim saw my message and reached out to me first, viewing this as a personal opportunity. As the evidence shows, she messaged me, not vice versa. I responded by sharing my own method. This was done simply to help a friend struggling with money, which I genuinely saw as a sharing is caring act. I only wanted to assist. Her claim that I forced her is an outright fabrication. While sharing the method may have been safe, construing my actions as pimping her out, a direct quote from her, is malicious and demonstrably false. Here is me explicitly telling Prim not to show visuals of herself. While not in the most assertive way, it's only as much as you'd expect from someone the same age in the exact same position. Clearly I was still under the impression she wasn't going to use images of herself, as I wasn't. In appreciation for my help, she offered me a portion of the money she received. I advised her to keep the majority of the funds. Nevertheless, she allowed me to get 30. While the entire situation was regrettable, the assertion that I groomed Prim into these actions is objectively untrue. We were the same age, and the shared mindset was mutual support, not manipulation. Neither of us adequately recognized the risks involved. This is a situation where we both needed mental support and help from healthy support systems. Neither of us had this. We were both victims. Not Prim alone. I will go ahead and clarify a few things. No, I did not possess Prim's photos, nor did I distribute them. I'm unsure where that claim came from. No, these people did not believe I was Prim, and Prim was me. The whole idea was catfishing. We found separate people and again, decided to share what we got from it. No, I did not force Prim to do anything. Again, telling people about the situation is not malicious, however saying I forced her is malicious. There is evidence clear as day she approached me regarding it. No, I did not make Prim send material of herself whatsoever. I actually obliged against it. Again, a clear lie. Indeed, the way I rebutted against it wasn't mature, but again I was quite unsure what to do. My first recommendation was the opposite of harming herself, and ultimately, this is not an example of me distributing CSEM as claimed. I'm unsure how they reached that conclusion, again with the amount of hearsay and lack of proof, but it does not correlate to the proof I've shown. The things that Prim sent were on her own accord, and had little to do with me. Graceful's involvement. Me and a peer did notify commentary out to Graceful of this. She was the first to hear about this, due to the first Prim spiel where she claimed I raped my pets, family members, etc. She contacted Graceful after making a few videos on me. We sent Graceful the logs, proving I did not orchestrate anything. We politely recommended not to make a video as we were taking it to the proper authority. She debated against it in another petty grasp for clout. Here is evidence. Despite this, as of October 28, 2025, Graceful still says I lied about the UTTP situation and the Prim incidents. I've explained all three of these to her. This is not the only time Graceful will be brought up. As much as I don't like to say it, Graceful has a history of misconstruing communications based on how much she likes the person. This would be an example. This is not said out of malice. You can like Graceful, you can be her biggest fan ever, I do not care or mind. I have also wronged her, and I will obviously bring that up. My point is recognizing she has made many immature mistakes, such as these. Two wrongs don't make a right. In conclusion, I acknowledge I should not have never told Prim how to get money from people like that as of now. I was the same age she claimed to be and have had a long history of exploitation, therefore I didn't understand the issue with this. I do recognize while letting them get involved wasn't smart. This situation was not the result of me forcing or exploiting Prim, it was simply negligence on all sides. It would be more productive to focus the blame on the adult parties who sought to take advantage of us, regardless of whether they knew they wouldn't receive anything explicit. Please move forward with the knowledge that this was nearly 2 years ago, and I have not done this since. This situation should not have been publicized. There is not enough nuance for it to be handled by a community like this. Me and Prim would both be victims. I cut ties with Prim in May 2024, as previously mentioned. This decision was based on her falsely claiming to have attempted suicide in my honor, asserting that she had medically died over 6 times. I'm not exaggerating, broken her ribs, punctured her organs, and was permanently physically disabled because of me. Her actions after this were completely uncalled for, and stapled the end of our friendship. I'd been uncomfy before due to her sporadic actions and genuine examples of sexual assault to my friends, but I had not had a decent outlet to express this in. The reason she'd gotten upset in the first place was because one of my ex-peers kicked her from my server for sending an edited photo of her face, bloodied and bloated. We were under the impression this photo was real. I was recovering from a medically recognized manic episode, and I was trying to keep myself under control for weeks on end. This peer only wanted to keep me safe from that content due to this episode, and due to that they kicked Prim. It was a petty dispute, but it didn't need to go as far as it did. I don't recall the entire surge of events in between, but there was a stream Prim started where she screamed at the top of her lungs about how she hated me for betraying her. A clip from the stream in question is available here. Warning, incredibly high volume.
So manic. I don't give a fuck! How the fuck do you think I am, bitch? I'm fucking schizophrenia and BBD!
That contradicts the claim of someone having just jumped off a 12-story building. During this live stream, the individual made several claims against me, including alleging I had pimped her out, addressed previously, as well as accusations of me raping family members and killing my hamster. The latter was, in fact, done by another family member. I allowed Prim to contact me. I was in a voice call at the time, because as I mentioned, I was unstable. My support system at the time was in this voice call. Prim messaged me and claimed she was sorry for all the things she said about me. I responded and asked how are you sorry if you keep lying, referencing her being in the hospital and about to die, and her demeanor quickly changed. Rather than reassuring me of her honesty, she launched a counter-accusation. This brings us to the core issue. I revealed to a then close friend that Prim had been masturbating while looking at a picture of a person who was 12 years old at the time the picture was taken, without any of their knowledge or consent. Prim was fully aware of the person's age. She was threatening to send this video to the victim, who was the same age as me at the time. She had also sent this video in batches to unsuspecting victims as young as 11. The video that prompted my reply only contained suggestive poor quality art and was not actually NSFW. Prim also, out of the blue, brings up the video. As you can see here, I did not ask for it. I cannot show the entire screen, as the video does happen to be below. She also claims a then 14-year-old asked her to do this, yet sent no evidence. Even if so, it is still absolutely revolting to do. If her alleged age was true, she would have been at least a year older than the person she claims asked for this. I also contacted the 14-year-old as we were mutuals, and they denied this. I replied with, well, it's right there. It does not imply that I welcomed or appreciated the content I received. At that time, I was quite accustomed to receiving this kind of material, especially when it was sent unprovoked. Prim was a close friend of mine as well, and it was hard to tell her I wasn't comfortable due to her constant sporadic behavior. When people expressed discomfort, she would reply with insults, accusations, or even as far as suicide/threats, like in this situation. I did not feel safe expressing discomfort around Prim. Prim claimed to have made a shrine of the victim, and admits to sending this to minors other than me without consent. Back to the interrogation, it is evident that Prim was being deceitful. Simultaneously, Prim was demanding evidence and visual proof. At the same time, the people in my private server were asking, and even advised reporting the matter to authorities due to its sexually deviant nature. When I sent said proof to Prim herself, she backtracked instantly. Let me clarify, this video was not saved whatsoever. It was copied. There was a clipboard feature on the device I used, similar to using CTRL+V. Prim asserted that I was in possession of CE, and that this had nothing to do with the conversation. This claim is made despite the fact that she was the one who initiated the topic and demanded for evidence. More importantly, Prim was the person who actually created and distributed the content without consent. This is by definition, manipulation. More specifically, though I hate to use this term in a serious context, gaslighting. As I said before, I was going to report this video to Suburtips due to the offense, therefore I would need to have this evidence attached to my clipboard in order to report properly. I had planned to submit 2 pieces of evidence, a message directly proving Prim's actions and the video itself. The message proof, which lacked visual NSFW content, was the only one intended for the server. Both, however, were meant to be sent to Suburtips. It was an extremely reckless error. The video, instead of the message, was mistakenly posted to the server. I only realized my mistake when peers quickly alerted me to delete it. I immediately deleted the video and purged the entire server. Most of my peers were on Prim's side. A majority weren't even in the server when it happened. They believed I sent this video purposely and as revenge for Prim's harm against me. This truly was an accident, and I was incredibly embarrassed I'd made that mistake. It was not purposely sent, however, and certainly not to get back at Prim. Sending that purposely would not only genuinely be stupid, but counterproductive. My sole intention was to warn my friends of Prim lying to them. I would not lie about something as serious as that, and still wouldn't. I'd apologized to Prim on multiple occasions, and I will admit, they were not as thought out as I wanted them to be. My words were heavily misconstrued, and were interpreted as using illness as an excuse. I bring up my mania not to lessen consequences, or say it's okay I did this because I'm ill, but rather to explain my mistakes. Me bringing up impulsivity or racing thoughts does not mean I did whatever I did, not even limited to this situation, because I couldn't control myself, but because it genuinely made me unable to process what I was sending. I cannot emphasize this enough, but I genuinely believed I was sending the text evidence. I made the ridiculous mistake of sending whatever was in my clipboard right away, instead of inspecting it. It was reckless, and it was dangerous, but it was anything but me deliberately harming Prim. I cleared this situation up a few more times to Prim herself, and assured her what I sent was completely accidental. Prim knew that was accidental from the start, as her intention was likely to get me to make this very mistake from the beginning. I still apologize, accident or not. I wholeheartedly admit I was reckless, and believe me, I have been working on impulsivity and checking the things I send before I send them. I'm still hoping people catch on to how disgusting this situation really is. It was overlooked in the past few situations, but it shouldn't be rocket science to figure out why someone, regardless of age, masturbating to than 12-year-olds SFW photos without consent needs to be reported. I do completely acknowledge my negligence in this situation. What I did, accident or not, was bad. It was not an instance of maliciously distributing CS or revenge porn though. I'm unsure where this claim came from, as I'd never once said I sent it for revenge. Definition for context. My story has always been that I'd copied the wrong file and pasted it in the wrong place. It has not been because I was manic, and if I have stated this, it would have been an incredibly poor choice of wording. No matter how manic I may have been, I would never send a piece of media like this deliberately. Again, my sole purpose was to help others and warn them of Prim. Clearly I was not in the position to do that. Last, I would like to address claims of me darksing Prim. I have not darksked Prim. I have, however, posted their fates that were already public. I have also given Prim's address to an ex-close friend for our Suburtips report. That is quite literally it. Now that that's explained, this leaves only 2 instances of me, non-maliciously and completely accidentally sending this content. Not 6. The first situation, with the UTTP, was me genuinely not knowing what was in the video or description due to heavy distortion. And the second situation was me recklessly not checking what I was sending into a Discord server. Keep in mind, this video was meant to go to Suburtips, and Suburtips only. I have never had CS/CAM saved in my life, and I certainly have never sent CAM for shock value, revenge, or because I was manic. Again, the accusation of acting out due to mania stems from experiencing racing thoughts and difficulty in recognizing certain things as a mentally stable person would, not from a deliberate, unstable choice to send things. The only times I have admitted to this state are in relation to making offensive bigoted remarks that I did not genuinely mean. This condition is a medically recognized issue that led to my hospitalization in May 2024, and still I continue to experience manic episodes to this day. while I shouldn't have to disclose my medical history, since so many online people seem to be qualified mental health professionals and psychiatrists with degrees, I will elaborate on my diagnosis in the final sections. I do not know where the 6 times claim came from, but it is certainly not true, and is baseless. I will keep learning from these situations, so that I'm less reckless, and pay more attention in the future. Daisy sent my penis out to people. Also, I'm biologically female. This section was written by Safari, since this is my, as in Safari, I'm speaking now, first mention in this document. I will start off by stating that I'm 15. I do not turn 16 until a week before the year ends, December 24th, 2009. As far as I'm aware, nobody has been notified of my age, and it has deliberately not been clarified anywhere in the document, or publicly, likely to help the pedophilia allegations thrive. This would make me at least a year, and 1 month older, and at most 2 years older than most parties mentioned in this situation. Birth certificate, as for some reason they're obliged not to verify my age. Anyhow, for such a serious accusation, I'd expect literally any form of proof that any of this happened the way it was stated to have, let alone at all. Fairly recently, I was on a call with a friend, and decided I'd screenshot some 8chan bullshit. The site is notorious for weirdos going on tangents, and I, as well as the person I shared it to, just found it humorous. I'd also like to mention, they did explicitly ask me to go on this site when it was mentioned. I was there exclusively to laugh at the foodism crazes. I did not at all view any explicit material of children, let alone search for whatsoever, nor did I find this. I'm unsure where that claim came from to begin with, but I will unfortunately have to assume it was added on because I already have pedophilia allegations. That is the only reasonable explanation I can come up with. I did not legitimately know there was ever explicit material containing children on that specific site. I made one singular joke referring to the fact that the people on that board will go above and beyond to express their pure, unrelenting edge. The joke in question was something along the lines of "there's probably tons of crazy shit on here," and I saw some random link and exclaimed some joke about how it contained everything evil on earth, and said I'd seen it all before or some shit, like a 3-minute ramble kinda joke, where I spew random deranged slop in desperate hopes of getting a laugh, I suppose. I probably slipped something about that kind of content in there. I genuinely do not remember the exact specifics of the joke. Not a mature or funny joke by any means. Very tasteless in fact, but Jesus Christ, no, I never legitimately stated to have seen CP, and I sure as hell didn't see it on that call. Just a ton of racism and words I can't pronounce or remember. The circumstances are certainly pretty odd. Now I don't actively search the hidden web, and there's criticism to be had for even so much as touching that site, but I hadn't actually been knowledgeable of anything beyond the fact it contained a foodism board, and I found that pretty funny. If you don't find that funny, I totally understand, but I find the kind of talk I see on there to be pretty unbelievably insane and humorous. That's literally the only reason I was ever there. Cannot stress that enough. Important side note, if we are bringing up things that happened on VC, Winter has actively given me a guide on how to find explicit material regarding children on Twitter by searching specific codewords through NSFW Twitter. I will obviously not share. I did not try these methods out at all, and I was not aware they could be executed until they told me. If we are bringing up things said in calls, I find that relevant to mention if Winter is going to downright misconstrue things, while on the other hand, they have actually been doing these things. I didn't bring it up before, not only because I was unaware of them sharing this false information about me, but because I didn't believe they told me out of ill will. Frankly, I trusted them way too much, and let that slide.
Hi, Daisy note again. Winter and their best friend have literally admitted to this thing happening, and I don't know how it slipped under the radar. Winter/IvyFinit literally gave them a step-by-step guide on how to find CM on Twitter. And besides that, if you're upset about the jokes they made, then here is Winter literally doing the same thing. Yes, it may have been an accident, but you explaining how to find this content in detail was not an accident. You admitted to seeing this without reporting it and told another minor, let alone person other than the cops about this. I believe you should be held accountable if we are. Also, if I had no idea what was going on, what does my ex-partner's actions have to do with me? This isn't a matter of guilt by association because I quite literally didn't know this occurred until they told me.
Daisy note again, they also include a screenshot where I explicitly stated Safari did not go on those sites to view those things. Foodism is on 8chan by the way, so no, I did not lie. They are virtually the same thing. I didn't mention this here, but foodism and Skibidi Farms were quite literally harassing us at this time. I will paste screenshots when I can find them, again. they were spamming my address in my YouTube streams and making references to Nazism. I should also let this be known, it was because of Yummy's video. Obviously, Yummy didn't send them to us, but they did harass me and ask me because they discovered his video existed. We didn't even know who they were before that. Again, another baseless and incredibly dangerous claim. It is another example of ex-friends making up disgusting falsehoods to add fuel to the already burning forest fire. Instead of speculating, this issue could have been resolved by simply contacting the people involved. No one who is involved in this has reached out to them for their perspective, yet I'm criticized for associating with them. If they are the alleged pedophile, that would make me an active victim and them an active threat. This doesn't make sense.
I recommend that you read the document as you're watching this segment, the reason being because my tablet will literally explode if I add too many images. That being said, all the images aren't included in this video, and again, I recommend that you read the document along with this. Thank you for understanding.
How me and Lime met. I was friends with Tex for approximately 3 years. We met in late 2022, I believe August/November, with me being 13 nearly 14. I was born the 21st of November 2008. The point of grooming is manipulating a party into getting something you desire. I had no desire for anything other than friends, and this is natural, especially for somebody my age, who was isolated from real-life peers. I took her admission of being fixated on me as a gift, still unknowing she was 10, instead of 13, like myself. This wasn't a situation of well you should have known she was 10, when you first met. It's easy to spot that. It is not at all. Even now, I genuinely believe she is older than she claims. Several factors contribute to my doubt, including her appearance, which I will not share, as it could jeopardize her safety, her writing style, and her reluctance to provide proof of her age. This makes it difficult for me to accept her stated age as true. Note, this is a personal belief, not a statement of fact or falsehood. I'm admittedly still in denial due to the severity of this situation. Examples of her writing. These may seem like a stretch on the reader's behalf. However, as someone who has known her longer than anyone, I can say these did sculpt my image of her. Her knowledge, and the advice she gave me, was beyond wise. I just thought she was someone the same age as me that was more intelligent than me in terms of both education and literacy, giving incorrect times regarding her age. She did not give the information all in November 2024. Rather the contrary, which is down below. This includes a screenshot a day before 2025. She came out to me about her age not even 3 days after this. I will get to that shortly. There was also a group chat named Maga she brought up. If she brought up her age in July, it was well after the Safari situation that went on, because it happened in May 2025. This could very well be misremembering. However, with other evidence, it doesn't add up. She also does not end up correcting such, but instead backtracked when I sent screenshots disproving of it. Her reluctance to verify to me that she wasn't lying her age again. No, I wasn't guilt tripping by the way. I was genuinely on the verge of a seizure. Notably, the last screenshot in particular is incredibly odd. What would be incriminating about a birth certificate, especially if I already have her birth name, where she resides, and previous school? Yes, this was given to me consentingly and contextually. There can't be anything more incriminating than my worst fear, a life for the 4th time. This was the 16th of October 25, when I contacted Tex to assess the situation. I will get into this later. However, it is a little odd to guilt trip someone and claim they're pressuring you solely for asking for evidence of your age that you've been flippant about several times. Tex finally admitted she couldn't find her birth certificate, but her explanation still felt incomplete. If she truly lacked access to it, I can't understand why she didn't mention that sooner. As of the document being released, Tex has now provided her birth evidence to the document creators, which is still incredibly confusing, since she previously withheld it from me. I was also shown that some people believed she was born in 2012, which makes me more skeptical. Guts stating she was allegedly born in 2012. The fact that multiple people have said multiple different ages is very confusing. This is why I believe it is important. If Tex has lied one or twice about a specific topic, they may do such again. You should not have 3 different dates of your age. That is impossible. Tex did eventually send me a screenshot of their grades, and above it said grade 8, which would make her 13, turning 14 in November. However, them being reluctant to send this to begin with contributes to my suspicion. Again, I'm not claiming she is lying now. However, my paranoia is more than valid considering her pattern of lies regarding this crucial information. Individuals I have recently told about this situation are even confused about the fact she lied to begin with. People whom have also known Tex being shocked she was deceptive about her true age. Her image of me still not processing that I was deceived for that long. Tex even confessed to me in late 2023 and got into a relationship with me still being under the impression she was the same age as me. This was a crucial mistake on her end. She did not tell me or hint to such whatsoever, which was incredibly dangerous for both parties. This time, she offered to send photos of her legs with my name on it. Me being her partner and unaware of the deception of age, I accepted, not nudity. The 13th of January 24, a year before. I, Daisy, am Cuteen Beautiful 999. This is my old account. The deleted account is Tex. I also have another screenshot from 2023, proving she started dating me then. I will admit, I did not experience romantic/sexual attraction, as well as confess to someone IRL while being with Tex, yet still stayed in this relationship. We broke it off in February 2024, a day or so after I'd gotten with another partner. I do feel bad about this, and I didn't remember this whatsoever until I was sent screenshots of such. This was also 2 years ago, however, and it does not reflect my character now. It is personal and not for you to judge. I would also like to mention, me and Tex had a conversation about this, and she exchanged the same feelings. I mentioned this in about 2 paragraphs after this. I can't find relevant information on the start of our relationship. We did speak a lot on Instagram, however my account is banned, so I cannot retrieve this information. I'm unsure if Tex's account was ever swapped or banned previously, but if it isn't, we are sure Tex can get more information. There were also several witnesses of this, however, who actively believed Tex was 16 as well. We parted for a few months due to interpersonal drama, and then reunited and elaborated in DMs. It was better we broke it off. We were good friends, not partners. Both of us expressed we couldn't feel beyond platonical feelings. I recently found out Tex has been pinning this as malicious as well, which is incredibly incriminating, due to the fact she is aware she did not tell me her age at all during this time. It also does not add up, because we broke up in February 2024. If you believed I had groomed you recently, why would you feel the need to add on an obvious lie? If there is so much evidence, it's not linear whatsoever. You have just destroyed your credibility a little more with unnecessary lies. January of 2025, Tex came out and admitted to lying about her age for 3 years straight, making her real age 10 to 11. The 30th of November 2011, at the time of our meeting. This information was received at a very sporadic and random time. I also mentioned this before, but this was literally 3 days after the most recent instance of her saying she's 16. I was naturally shocked and admitted this several times. I did not apply this information subconsciously, as I was so used to knowing Tex as the same age, not someone much younger. It is a very hard realization for the person who has been the closest to you for years, to lie about something so heinous. If you put yourself in my shoes, you would have a hard time processing this as well. People process information like this at different rates and forms. It is genuinely disgusting and reckless to lie about something so important for that long, knowing you did things that could have them pinned as a predator. What Tex did could and did get me in trouble. Do also keep in mind, even if she did come out about her true age, that it was 3 entire years of me being used to and conditioned to this lie. Lying for such a time can disrupt memory, especially in individuals like me, who already have a hard time remembering daily things. I cannot even remember some traumatic events. Someone I loved and trusted lying about their age and getting me into a relationship with them unknowingly can disrupt this even more. No, this isn't using my illness as an excuse or whatever. What I suffer from does genuinely impact my everyday life, even up to my memory. Unfortunately, this extends to inconvenient and dangerous circumstances as well. It isn't a fictionalized fairy tale, it is real life. Things like this happen. It is not something I can control or manage without medication. Images of me in the past speaking about my memory and amnesia due to my illness. By the way, I don't remember what idiot of a human stated this, but amnesia is not limited to the ID. I cannot believe that was an actual point. I've also conducted an experiment, seeing if people, completely unrelated and unbiased, experience the same thing. Not a single person knows the context, however every single comment had elaborated on amnesia. Even better, it lies in the picture. There are at least a dozen more personal accounts. The last comment stuck with me personally, as they brought up the fact that the other party corrected themselves on the mistake. This did not happen with Tex. Not in the moment of the Safari situation, at least. Multiple people also bring up still associating memories with the lie regardless of what the other party says. You could argue, there isn't evidence you forgot. But there also is no evidence that I did not forget. There is, however, evidence that the other party lied. The only instances and evidence of me stating she was 13 was after the Safari situation, or May 2025 event. It was July 4th months ago. After the event, heads up, this segment was written before I broke up with Safari. The Safari situation. As I mentioned, I'm very close to Safari. Dare I say, Safari is the closest person to me and has been for the past year. They were aware of this and took advantage of this. From December 2024 to June 2025, they were incredibly abusive to me. I will not get into the specifics of this, as it is not your business. However, I will say a prime example of such occurring was guilting was set on the ideology, hey, if I tell Daisy to do this, they're gonna do it, because they love me. If they don't, I'm gonna tell them to leave. When I didn't do the things requested, they would berate me, sometimes blackmail me, and force me to do things, such as self-harm. I can confirm this, as some previously affiliated parties let me vent about this abuse. They took advantage of this fact in a psychotic episode, berating/degrading me as a person if I didn't do everything they said. And alas, comes this whole spiel. I do not remember the topic of discussion, and I cannot retrieve it as I've lost access to my message. My iPad is broken, and it did not back up to iCloud. However, Safari asked me for explicit images of Tex. I expressed discomfort, being visibly grossed out, and even stating such. I remember saying things such as she is pretty, but I don't see her, beyond that and whatnot. Safari pushed more, and more over time, and with them using the tactics I mentioned earlier, I ended up complying. I remember being in 5th period when this happened. I was incredibly scared. I had to step into the room next door, so people didn't see me visibly tearing up. I made sure, even though I was incredibly weary, to explicitly state Safari wants to see. If you look here, you can see this is a direct admission of me believing they were the same age as me. Age range meaning 15 to 16. If they didn't comply, Safari wouldn't have gone further. Safari mainly wanted me, and things out of me. Tex even admits this in an argument about it, clarifying that it was never saved. Safari also told me they, despite doing this, didn't feel anything beyond platonicism. I think that is important to note. With the thought of exploiting the other party in mind, you would expect them to be a lot more upfront to me as they usually were, expecting me to keep this information as they expected me to keep everything else. As in, they wouldn't have been afraid to tell me this with the way they'd already harmed me. Tex did comply, though, again with us under the impression they were older than Safari and the same age as me. I'm absolutely not stating that 13-year-olds can consent. That sentiment has never been expressed by me, and implying that was inherently malicious. What I'm asserting is that even though the situation was highly irresponsible and dangerous, all individuals were fully aware of the nature of the communication. No one was coerced, and Tex was not intentionally deceived or misled in any way. Nothing was saved, as it was screenshot. I only did what Safari asked. I didn't feel as if there was a choice by this point. What Safari wanted was not a matter of wanting to exploit someone younger, because we were both under the impression that Tex was the same age as I. There was absolutely no evidence of Safari knowing Tex's age at the time of this happening either. Their actions were to harm me. I made it explicitly clear to Tex that Safari was asking for these. If Tex was harmed, and evidently it seems she is, then this was not deliberate. It wasn't a group effort grooming situation. We both still feel immense guilt knowing she feels this way. I'm extremely embarrassed by these circumstances, even if they weren't completely on me. Fast forward, a month or so later. Me and Safari's relationship was still incredibly abusive, and I was still taking hits. I snapped several times, to no avail. I pretty frequently expressed these feelings, only to be ignored, so it'd result in insults. Still with no reasonable responses. I will not be adding these screenshots, as it genuinely sends me into extreme distress, but it isn't that calmant. This unstable behavior persisted for months. It was at this point, or shortly thereafter, that I left and blocked Safari across most platforms for several weeks. However, I forgot to unblock them on Instagram, which, of course, they exploited to message me, confronting them about abusing me and cheating. They went into a schizophrenic breakdown, caused by the episode they were already in 4 months. As much as I won't excuse this behavior, I will say, they sporadically spewed paragraphs about them being a pedophile, groomer, and things similar, even breaking down to their parents about it. However, this was not a true statement, and it certainly wasn't caused by the text situation. I didn't bring that up until later on. I will not include images of this. They have expressed immense discomfort, as this is a breach of privacy. I apologize for sending that out as well. This was merely an instance of a 15-year-old having a mental breakdown. This person was not 16 for another 7 months at this time, making it factually impossible for them to be considered a pedophile. Safari has never expressed attraction to children. Matter of a fact, only the contrary. Not only have they expressed disdain for children, they have always been a person to help me with getting children, similar to Tex's age, out of harmful situations. They have even helped me with some of my video scripts exposing predators. The reason this was said to begin with is a direct symptom of their, yes, diagnosed professionally, paranoid schizophrenia. Paranoid individuals, during episodes this severe, will convince themselves that people are trying to harm them or that they are terrible things. It is a little similar to OCD. For example, I've stated I have puro, which causes me to force myself into believing things or think of things that are distressing, intrusive, and objectively incorrect. Example, thoughts regarding family members and pets. It is not something we deliberately think of or want to experience. The fine line though is that our brain is genuinely lying to us. These thoughts are not true, nor are they a reflection of our character. Regarding paranoid schizophrenic delusions, again, these are not based on reality and they are not something you believe or want to act on deep down. It is something that causes you genuine distress and disgust. Safari has been to a therapist to manage these thoughts, and these individuals have confirmed they are not a pedophile. In a fit of blind rage, as this wasn't cleared up previously, I messaged Tex regarding this. I first explained that I left Safari at the time, then I told Tex falsely that Safari was planning to put them in harm's way with no evidence. Keep in mind, Tex did not clarify her age. It wouldn't have been grooming due to the age gap, but rather because I believed Safari was going to harm her as they did to me. My actions were only out of care. If I was deliberately planning to harm her, I would have tried to get her away from Safari. During the event, where she sent photos of herself, I was completely void of this mindset previously. I only reached this conclusion due to Safari's sporadic and false admissions. I truly did not think of such at the moment. I was only afraid Safari would leave me, which is one of my biggest fears. Tex seemed generally understanding regarding this. 2 days later, when I'm trying to heal from the damage Safari caused, I get a long message from Tex. I'm still briefly speaking to Safari, and they end up clearing up a bunch of things regarding it. This was including the spiel and the situation regarding Tex, where they admit they took advantage of me in this situation. Notice, again, they don't bring up it's bad because of Tex's age, as we again were not aware of such. But because this was someone dear to me, I did not wish to sexualize. Forcing me to get images for their own game was incredibly destructive. Consensual or not, this was still something I did not want to do, and they have admitted to such. Back to Tex, I would like to note, Tex did not write this message solely on her own. Without my knowledge, they had told another individual about this situation. I will give them the alias Red. Tex was obviously very confused by the situation, so they contacted Red regarding this. They explained the situation to Red, and naturally, they thought it was absolutely horrid. However, it was not due to Safari's negligence, due to Tex's alleged real age. Tex had told Red they were 13 multiple times. Red gave Tex advice on how to write this paragraph. I responded back sporadically. As aforementioned, I'd contacted Safari again. With this, and the idea they felt genuine remorse, which I do believe they did, I decided to lessen the punishment of them, rather than me, by throwing in something that wasn't true. These were spur of the moment, and not deliberate, repeated lies, as I thought my best friend was going to leave me over something I did not orchestrate or want, knowingly. Clearing up a few things from this sporadic paragraph, the photos sent weren't deleted, because they were never saved. This wasn't a spur of the moment statement, but rather just misremembering due to the horrid time this confrontation went on. Again, with the amnesia. I confirmed with Safari those photos were not distributed. I do mention Safari making grooming jokes, however these were not serious. As expressed, I'd stated otherwise, because I was genuinely under the impression those jokes had undertones due to my own abuse. Agent was not inspired off of Tex. They are the same height, however it is purely coincidental. Agent was created the 14th of May 25, before the entire ordeal, the 16th of May 25, so this is clearly not true. I stated such to lessen the severity of backlash towards Safari, as I still internally cared about their image more than my own. Evidence Agent plus their reference was created before the entire ordeal. Tex was allowed to be upset, however, to pin this as grooming on my end, is genuinely upsetting considering the context given. I understand the context with Red, as they genuinely believed this was deliberate, and all-knowing. The thing that tripped me up was after the ordeal. This was not the only conversation we had about this. I cleared my head, and we had a proper conversation regarding such contents. Me and Tex were on mutual understanding, and even though she disliked Safari for harming me, she understood she was not deliberately harmed, and was certainly not groomed. Here, I explicitly make it clear they were not being predatory, but rather negligent of our relationship via cheating on me with Tex. In late September, a few months after this ordeal, I found out the situation had spread to Guts unknowingly through Red. I was incredibly confused and upset as I had cleared up everything. I lashed out and blocked her. I sporadically expressed how hurt I was that this spread so widely with no clarification. Note, obviously, there's a stupid typo. I come out and say I did truly forget she lied about her age. This was not the reason I broke off our friendship, but it was the pushing point as I took it as malice. I still do not know if what she said came from a place of genuine hurt or pettiness. Even so, I'm incredibly sorry and I have made that clear. The main reason was that I got sick of straining myself. She didn't listen to me. She didn't want to. It's not something I should have the responsibility of. I'm not even in a good mental spot to take care of someone else, so how could I parent another person at this time? I did not even recognize I would need to, again, with her lying about her age. As much as I loved her, our reactions were making me more and more uncomfortable. She is allowed to be hurt, but I'm also allowed to be hurt. I'm even more distraught. She is pinning this as grooming, yet doesn't call out the people doing exactly that. Forest is associated with parties that distribute genuine, in real life dark web SEM. I cannot find the conversation, however I begged Tex to leave him, to no avail. I will not blame Tex for this, as their world been in danger. I still stayed when they came out about that. Temple is a 17-year-old who is in a toxic relationship with Tex. They claimed he was not grooming them. Keep in mind, I do not bring this up to blame her. It is more a point of being hurt, due to her hypocrisy. Not that it's happening. I have tried my best though. She messaged me through a friend. They first agreed that it wasn't grooming, but the fact I wasn't unblocking them at the time eventually made her have a complete dissociation from me and our friendship as a whole. All I needed was a break. This was the week I'd been having seizures frequently due to stress, and they were aware of this. I even stated in my sporadic parting message I would likely unblock her. I do not blame her for mutually being sporadic, however claiming for these interactions to be grooming on my end, not even Safari's, which would make more sense though they are still not a predator, made the situation blow up. Tex also ended up making merely false claims in individual DMs to take me down. For example, another party besides Red, who has already been mentioned in this document at least 3 times for lying on me, that being Blue, came up with the idea to make false DM accusations, knowing I already had them. They ended up retracting these statements together when they were on good terms with me, however Tex claimed for them to still be true. Tex attempted to maliciously get them to admit to something that did not occur. Again, adding on false claims with no evidence, if you believe you were already victimized with enough proof, does not make sense. A little later, I unblocked Tex. I wanted to clear up this conflict fair and square, as Guts and Red had been insisting I groomed her. I would like to mention, I genuinely did not remember bringing this up. However, this supports my point more. The fact I vented about it to my only support system, meaning they knew of this before, and didn't consider it grooming, yet they are still the ones who called me out. Also, they claim that Safari masked as such, when this is not true. It literally says it right there. Back to the conversation with Tex. In these last 2 screenshots, Tex indirectly admits she did all of this because I blocked her. Exhibit A. Again, I cannot add all of the images because of my dog shit device capacity, but there is an entire segment debunking the claims of using grooming tactics on Tex. TL. Doctor, me and Tex had a strictly platonic friendship. I obliged to help her get away from people harming her, and she would literally yell at me for doing so I gave up. Let me state, despite the fact that nobody was groomed, what happened was not okay. I was not aware that teenagers exchanging explicit photos to consenting parties was a crime. Do keep in mind though, nobody would get in trouble for these actions, as technically, both parties cannot consent. The laws also vary by state. Fact checking, in Safari's country and state, what happened would not be considered illegal. For Texas state, I believe it would still not be considered illegal, as their state doesn't even have sexting laws. Tex would, however, get in trouble for lying about their age, whether cleared up or not prosecuted, but it would result in extreme consequences. You cannot deliberately prove either of us knew their age, especially as Tex herself did not notify Safari. On my end, it would not be illegal. Asking for explicit photos, same age or not, is considered a crime. This situation is different however, I would not be charged as I was coerced, and I'm able to prove such. Coercion is a negation of consent, which still implies it was still never agreed upon. If I was not coerced, due to all both being under the age of consent, no prosecution would take place. Only an online safety class, or an order to get offline. No, this isn't law morality. I'm only stating this, because I have been reported to the authorities. Ironically, I'm the only party that would not get in trouble. Some individuals have gotten angered for bringing up the law. However, if you've reported me for this, it is hypocritical to get mad at me when it was brought up on the other end. And if you're curious, yes, the police are aware of what happened. I will get into this later, but by court of law I'm innocent. What happened was still not okay. I cannot see myself willingly committing these actions on my own accord. Safari has shown remorse for such as well, and it will not repeat. That is for them to state, though. This was in fact just a case of teams being irresponsible. The main problem lies with the coercion of me and Tex convincing the both of us they were the same age/older. Teenagers exchange these things all the time, which is why they don't get in trouble. The law is set for safety and assurance that children will not be harmed online. This situation is a good example of why you should not do this, whether you are the same age or not. As for Safari, they are getting help for what they've done to me and their extreme paranoia. Safari has told their parents and their therapists/psychologists what they've done to me and has gone through cognitive behavioral therapy. They have also gotten medicated and have shown incredibly significant change. It is up to me to forgive her, and I have. It isn't your business. Safari has also apologized to me. They offered an apology to Tex and she declined because Tex didn't care about the situation or find it malicious. All I can do is apologize and ensure safety online. I'm not a predator, however, nor am I in possession, nor was I even in possession of illegal material. To end this off, I wrote a closing message. I will include it here. To Tex, as I oblige to not contact you further, despite how I feel about all of this. I want you to know that I'm still genuinely remorseful about all of this. I recognize and will not invalidate your hurt feelings. What happened should never have occurred at all, and I will be taking precautions so that it doesn't happen with anyone else. I did care about you, and I still do. I hope you can find a safe path to recovery. I still think about you often, both in positive and negative connotations, but the fact remains that I don't regret meeting you. You did genuinely bring joy to my life. This was more a learning experience than anything. I feel nothing but disappointment about the fact you view me in this way, and I hope with time, it changes and you realize I genuinely did not mean to harm you. I certainly did not, and never would have manipulated you either. That was the last thing on my mind. Please take care of yourself. I can't make you take a break, and I know it's always been hard, but I'm certain that you need one. Even just for a little. Everyone in this situation needs reflecting. Focus on your art and your tarots. Do something great with yourself and your talents. I truly mean this. I harbor no hatred toward you and never will. My hope is that you don't feel any hatred toward me either, though this is quite bittersweet. I cannot, in good conscience or maturity, end this without a proper conclusion. It feels akin to finally shutting a locked diary. Since this incident, I have distanced myself from Safari. I'm still recovering from the abuse I personally experienced. Again, if Tex personally feels harmed in any way, I pray they can do the same. It's never too late, like we both said to each other, yeah? Bless your soul, genuinely. Don't mean to get too emotional on a Google document, haha. I also hope this doesn't sound or look god awful. It comes from a genuine place in my heart. Firstly, I'll address the relevance of my presence in Daisy's life. Considering the things I'm about to admit to doing, primarily to Daisy himself, naturally most would expect me to be a far distance from Daisy, but with consideration of my progress with mental health and impulse control, Daisy has made a conscious decision to continue our relationship and stress that I would maintain steady improvement and right my own wrongs. This is Daisy's decision, not the reader's, not anybody but Daisy's. Daisy was the target of my manipulation. Other parties were not even brought into contact with me, nor was anybody but Daisy methodically and deliberately taken advantage of directly by me in the past. It should be known that this is primarily one of my many wrongdoings, and a result of my previous extreme manipulation tactics. I do not believe Daisy should be viewed as a necessarily willing and especially eager participant in this situation, but much rather an uncomfortable, practically forced, trust me, I was very much there, middle party, with Daisy even having encouraged me upon the first multiple requests not to request these things, likely knowing I wouldn't allow him to comfortably deny the request if I had continued. Which I still did, and communicating in what I believe is a pretty clearly uncomfortable and hesitant way. It was my coercion that pushed Daisy to request anything from Tex, not Daisy's own volition, and especially not for financial gain, wherever that claim came from, perhaps Prim? I'd also like to mention that the age gap between me and Tex at the time was nowhere near predatory. I had, in fact, believed Tex was older than me. Even if Tex's supposed real age had been mentioned prior, I have no memory of this being brought up, and actually continued under the belief Tex was 16, until the recent resurfacing of events. I'm even more disgusted than before. As anyone would, hopefully, be. Daisy had not assisted in predatory activity. Tex did in fact have complete knowledge as to where these images were going, and, although these images never should have been exchanged, and no parties involved can genuinely consent, no predatory or deceptive behavior had gone on whatsoever. To all parties involved, I'm genuinely sorry for my erratic behavior. Things did not need to be this way, and if it weren't for my selfish decisions and the effects they had on the people who mean the most to me, they certainly wouldn't have. I want to take accountability for the majority of what went on. I feel immense guilt and an extreme sense of depersonalization almost nightly, and I'm making a genuine active effort to improve, and I have made significant progress, where I was misled. I'll state this as firmly as I can. I did not have prior knowledge of Tex's genuine age. I was under the same impression as countless other people. none of what was instigated had been under any sort of belief that Tex was even my same age, let alone younger than me at all. I have genuinely been accused of pedophilia privately, now extremely publicly, by parties who, albeit not knowing I would hear about this, now have uncomfortable levels of knowledge about my intrusive thoughts and paranoia induced by my schizophrenia well exceeding what I'm comfortable with. Not to victimize myself, but to say this shouldn't be such a public spectacle as it doesn't relate to the situation at hand. When given the genuine context, this situation is not a product of anything I have previously said about myself or others in psychotic states, nor is it an example of intentionally predatory behavior, even if this admittedly took place at an apex for my mental decline. I can confidently say that there is absolutely no evidence in existence that can imply otherwise, and you're not necessarily just taking my word for it.
Before I end this entire segment off, I would just like to say something. As stated at the beginning of this video, Safaria is now my ex-partner. They were with me during this entire spiel, the entire situation, and you know who I blame? I blame you. You blame me for being with a supposed pedophile groomer partner. You blame me for being abused by them, and you let me stay, all because you thought I was evil. Not once did anyone check on me and say, hey, are you okay around Safaria? Are you this? Are you that? No. They said, you're going right down with them, and they did not care if I got help. I truly cannot put it into words of how badly I was abused by them and how disgusted I am that I was basically conditioned to stay around them, as they were quite literally the only person that did not leave and I believe never would leave. I will stand by this till I die. This community does not care about victims. They care about who they hate and who they can get taken down the fastest. Thank you for quite literally nothing. I do not owe you anything.
Start off, I'd like to give a little context and background regarding those involved. Ivyfinite, who I will refer to as Blake/Winter, is 14, turning 15 in December. I again am 16, turning 17 in November, making this a 2-year and 1-month gap in age. We would be in the same high school class. Gutsl/Moss is 17, and turned 17 this year. Now that this is known, I will explain the situation. Keep in mind, I do not have every screenshot regarding the conflict, as they removed me from every group. It is included in their document, though. I recommend you read the screenshots in their document along with mine. Admittedly, I'm not too bothered to scramble for evidence for this defense. I was in a group chat, Union Gang, with several individuals. Of these people, Gutsl and Blake were included. These were the only people I'd been talking to daily, as I was isolated, because of the YummiCactus situation. On September 21st, the 21st of September 25, we got into a conflict regarding proship and proship content. My point of view was simply that I didn't care. Nothing more, nothing less. I expressed such, as I had a past of being exploited and raped in real life. Me being a victim of these circumstances made me develop an inability to compare fictional instances to real life instances. I explicitly stated that I did not care about shipping discourse. It was petty, stupid, and childish to me. I expressed being uncomfortable around both pro-shippers and anti-shippers, as they all have their own respective flaws. They also literally include this in the document. What sparked this conflict, to begin with, was a popular furry artist, obviously supporting pro-ship, being exposed for possession of real-life CM. There was also a separate artist that happened to be my mutual brought up. This artist drew knots, but apologized for this, and has not done so in years. There was also Nyan Wilf, who was exposed for liking feral art. Gutsl made the point that these people were irredeemable, as fictional depictions of paraphilias, zoophilia, lophilia, necrophilia were the same as actual real-life cases. I was very upset by this. I explained the following. CM by definition is exploitation of a real child. CM is the abuse of a real child. A fictional character can abuse another character, and a fictional character can be abused in a fictional setting, but this does not contribute to, or translate to actual cases of real-life child, or hell even animal abuse. The general argument relating to pro-shipping and content similar isn't regarding whether it is CM, but rather whether it romanticizes such things. By law and fact, fictional depictions of, or even forms of media romanticizing paraphilias are not inherently illegal. They are also not inherently associated with genuinely illegal content, including real-life exploitation. Comparing fictional depictions of these things to real-life occurrences and examples of them is disrespectful to victims, such as myself. My CM was placed in a Telegram folder by my groomer without my knowledge. Obviously, I'm going to be a little offended if I see some sexualized art of an underage Anin girl being compared to my real-life experiences and emotions. Emotions that this aforementioned Anin girl cannot feel, which is an objective fact regardless of how gross, immoral, weird, objectionable, or practically criminal you believe that content is. Same with feral porn. I was forced to watch content involving animals IRL by people far older than me. It is very hard to see similarities in fictional aspects, given I was a victim to seeing the opposite. Nobody defended the distribution of either. We all were on the same page, except for Guts. Me, Blake, Chip, 14, and Apple, 16, were on the same ground. Guts, Melvin, 17, and Leaf, 17, were on the contrary. I apologize to Guts in this group chat for misunderstanding my perspective. I'm also just now seeing this, but she claims I guilt-tipped her because I was paranoid she hated me for our conversation. I also remember pinging everyone and asking them to stop discussion of the topic in fear of making other parties uncomfortable. I apologized to 2 other individuals in case they misunderstood my point and they accepted this apology. My views are never in ill will or bad faith. My past experiences simply contribute to the way I think about these topics. I never want to make anyone uncomfortable, and I make this clear. Nobody has to agree with me. It's just frustrating to have conflicting views, but that's all. I have always been open to different perspectives, especially from those who have experienced grooming as I did. Me clarifying that I meant no harm within the discussion, which the 2 parties understood. The first person in the screenshot is Melvin. The second is Leaf. I also apologize to Gutsl/Moss herself. After this, Gutsl had pinged everyone in the group chat, exclaiming that she was uncomfortable with the discussion of sexual topics due to the age gaps of people in the group. This was completely reasonable, but the discussion was not sexual whatsoever. I don't remember all, but I do remember mentioning my experiences with assault that caused my mechanisms. I cannot say this for a fact though, because I have no access to these conversations. Take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I can assure you though, these conversations were not intentionally inappropriate. Most of it was just girl talk or edgy sex jokes. Something that most teenagers indulge in. I remember being frustrated due to her vague wording and her not telling us immediately when she was uncomfortable. I expressed this to her. We argued for about 10 minutes, then I apologized and cut it off. This was in fact miscommunication though. It was not handled the best. I also didn't understand the age argument at the time because nobody's age was clarified directly. I had known that Gutsl and Blue were 17, Blake was 14, and that Magenta was 14 because they told us. I did not know that Purple was about to turn 18 though. Nor that Magenta turned 14 this year. If I was told this previously, I do apologize, but I only remember it being brought up after the conflict. Gutsl and Blue are not almost 18 as claimed though. They still have an entire year, and so do I. This makes all of us, from my knowledge, have a 2-year age gap. Based on what I was told, you can be uncomfortable and express such without making everyone else uncomfortable. We all collectively agreed Gutsl should have expressed discomfort without bringing up my age. I'm quite literally younger than Gutsl. Apple expressing discomfort because of Gutsl's wording. Blake/Winter and me and expressed frustration with Gutsl and Purple. They exclaimed they wanted to switch to a group chat with our other friendship, and I agreed as I was frustrated as well. I did as they requested and moved to a group chat that already existed with me, Blake, and Apple prior. Gutsl first uses this as a point of me grooming Blake. Isolation. This first off makes no sense due to this group chat being created prior. I also did not name it Cupidite Safe Haven. Tealed it. It was an inside joke for VC. These were the friends I connected with the most, so I made a separate group chat. No inappropriate discussions went on in this group chat. The only mention of sexual things was debating what had happened in Bunyangang. Context for first message was a joke without context. I would also like to mention that Blake asked for us to move back to this group chat first. We both agreed upon inviting Chip, as we were frustrated we couldn't reach a mutual conclusion with the others. I asked if I was able to invite Magenta. Teal and Blake agreed. I will note, I did believe that Chip was born the same year in Blake. I did not know they turned 14 this year. I believe they were turning 15, as Blake is. I should have clarified with Chip. This was irresponsible on my end, and I apologize. No sexual discussions with them went on regardless. That would have been out of character morally for me. Only in a neutral, assertive, as in debating, or educational context. We were talking about the situation when Blake brought up the fact that they drew knots. I expressed I had done the same in the past. I did not clarify this before, or in the GC, that when I drew those things, it had not been recent whatsoever. I only mentioned it, as it was a topic in discussion. The most recent instance was sometime in 2024, and I have not repeated such. I also expressed curiosity about seeing Blake's art. I never deliberately asked or begged for such contents, though looking back I now understand why people did. They sent their art, then quickly deleted it. I complimented it, but I was not weird or inherently sexual about it. Not even 10 minutes after the event, I expressed an extreme fear they'd think I was grooming them or harming them for my curiosity. I even Blake, afraid they thought I was asking for such for inappropriate reasons. Me and Blake had an entire conversation on how we weren't attracted to each other and how we were talking about these things neutrally. Need I add, it's because I'm black. I told them I didn't find interest in them whatsoever because they were ginger, as a joke. In this time frame, Gutsl sent me a long paragraph explaining their views on porn and talking about it with friends. I did not respond, which I admit wasn't the most mature. I expressed it was too long, with it literally filling up 6 pages of my screen. However, this is not a good reason to not listen to your friend's views. After this conflict, during the text situation, I apologized for such negligence. I explained why I held the views I did, with her response being another rebuttal. It seemed useless to try and respond to begin with, due to her strong views. She admitted she was trying to force her views on us. I will also bring up another point, them saying it enabled Winter's views on fictional NSFW fear alert, and romanticizing the fact Winter was groomed into it. If this is true, then I literally had no knowledge. Winter themselves stated they only drew that content because they saw furries online doing it. I do not blame Gutsizzle for her views, as she has a history of harmful people exposing her to these things. I do not like how she does not listen to others' opinions on it because of these experiences. It feels very disheartening to be labeled a predator or to be labeled with a literal paraphilia due to me simply not caring about such topics. What I believed was not affecting my life, and it still is not. It is not something I think of on a daily basis. I was on a completely separate page with her views on the age gap point though. No, a 2-year age gap relationship is not grooming. It can play a factor in those cases, but there was no abuse going on. The maturity difference is not gigantic, and there was no power dynamic. We considered each other friends and nothing more. There was absolutely no sexual or romantic interest mutually. She brought up the fact she wouldn't even do the things I did with someone 1 year younger, showing bias. To this day, Gutsizzle still believes that 2-year age gaps are inappropriate. Reminder that groomer primarily focuses on the action. Legal-wise, most states, including ours, recognize that small age gaps between minors are not the same as exploitation. This is why they have close-in age exemptions, often called Romeo and Juliet laws. These laws exist because teenagers often form relationships naturally within their friend group. For example, 14 to 16 or 15 to 17, me and Blake's age gap. The goal of the law is to punish exploitation, not normal relationships between peers close in age. These laws prevent either party from being labeled a sex offender or predator when both are minors acting without coercion or manipulation. Ethical perspective. A 2-year gap between minors, X. 13 and 15, or 15 and 17, usually means both people are in the same or very similar stages of emotional and cognitive development. People in this age also share the same social environments. Like I stated before, me and Blake would be in the same high school. People our age will talk about these subjects. It is a part of our natural development. Age gaps like this lack the power dynamics that make grooming or manipulation possible. Ethically, what makes a relationship predatory isn't age alone, it's intent and power. Blake has also expressed being aware of this. Now that that's out the way, I will clarify I was not normalizing Blake to this content, as they expressed, being exposed to such contents before. Gutsizzle had even shown pornographic material to them jokingly/satirically in the past. I'm not accusing Gutsizzle of anything predatory, by the way. It's clear with their blatant disgust of this, they had no ill will, but by their definition of grooming, they would have the same label as me. It is only hypocritical. Joking exposure and joking discussion is still exposure. I'm not defending these instances, but they were not predatory or grooming. The discussion was mutual, and I would argue it wasn't even sexual. Nobody expressed sexual interest to any party, only interest in conversation due to the circumstances. A few more things, before I end this off. Gutsizzle has accused me of blackmailing Blake, due to me posting screenshots of them saying racist things against black people on my community posts. As much as this wasn't the best option, it was not blackmail. I did not deliberately threaten to expose this information. I simply just posted it. I was frustrated that a trusted friend went behind my back and was working with 2 individuals that have harmed me in the past. Chip messaged me, begging me to take the posts down. I rightfully refused. In response, Chip lied and claimed that Blake was being manipulated and guilt-tripped to do this. Obviously I would offer to take down my posts if they were manipulated, because that would mean it wasn't out of their own will. This is not blackmail. I was just trying to see if one of my friends was turning on me again. They came out and said they lied because they were scared. I will still admit, this entire situation was incredibly irresponsible. Moving forwards, I will make sure to take the necessary precautions so that this doesn't happen again. I'm not a groomer though. I did not pressure anyone into anything either. If they were uncomfortable, I'd wish for them or anyone else to speak up next time. I make it very clear that my last intention is to harm others, and to clarify, I'm not a pro-shipper. I'm still neutral and I always will be. This discourse is not something I want to be involved in whatsoever. Leaking these opinions knowing it was something strictly confidential is not a good look. I feel quite embarrassed I have to tell everyone I was raped 600 times to not be called a pedophile or zoophile for not caring about people taboo fictional interests. I'm 17. My opinions will change with time. I was going to write an entire segment regarding this, however this is after my exposure to the Juni and Yummy document. Junie has admitted she knows she wasn't manipulated, faked being abused, and that Yummy knew about it the entire time. Another point I'd like to bring up, the entire reason Junie befriended me was because he wanted evidence of me being anti-Semitic and wanted to harm Yummy. He normalized making those jokes with him using the excuse that he's Jewish and made me feel safe, then went behind my back and took screenshots. I sent him a paragraph explaining how hurt I was, and he replied with 1 or 2 words and that is all. Junie was never a friend to me, and I think that I deserve an apology for being manipulated. This segment is admittedly a little emotional, so that's all I'll say, but it gets the point across. While I'm reluctant to revisit this topic for what feels like the 300th time, I feel compelled to address it as promised, covering all aspects of these allegations. To properly address the claims made, I must first establish context. I apologize if the details I provide are limited, but I'm not obligated to disclose the full scope of what I went through. However, to explain my past views and beliefs, I do need to delve into my past experiences and trauma. No, this isn't guilt tripping, or whatever other TikTok buzzwords you have in mind. It is a genuine explanation. Please read thoroughly. To start off, if you don't remember the full extent of my background, this isn't my first run in a big drama. I'd gotten forcefully deplatformed by a YouTuber much bigger than me in late 2022 for being mutuals and friends with Morty SFILEC, otherwise known as the leader of Dice.org. I was barely a month into being 14. My point of view was similar to, admittedly, the staple of my existence now, seeing the best in the worst, and trying to help by all means necessary, while being ill and impressionable myself. It admittedly is a true problem. I struggle with it today, and admittedly I still see little harm in it. I do believe it is between me and a future therapist to clear that up though. Not me and strangers on the internet that document my every mistake. It isn't healthy. Every time I tried to make new friends, I was berated. I did not have any communities I felt belonged in, so I started to spiral slowly. This is also the time where Tofox had made false grooming allegations of me, so I was hated even more. At this time, I would also been isolated from the outside world, meaning no school, not even online, no neighbors, nothing. Only myself, my physically/mentally abusive guardians, and my siblings. In early 2023, I'd been searching for new Discord servers to find friends and romantic interests in. Yes, you can laugh. It is so incredibly embarrassing. I was genuinely sick of being isolated this badly and craved new connections. I'd come across this server on Discord tagged as a few of my interests. At this time, I believe I was fixated on movies and film. It had been one of my comforts and still is. Essentially, it was tag film bro, Sigma and things similar. I was very unaware of how these people maneuvered in private, so I went in oblivious. I went on one of the discussion channels and brought up how one of my family members said Hitler was a Satanist. He wasn't Christian. A member by the name of DK responded to me, calling the family member unintelligent and claimed they were fools. Asked them what they meant and about the history of WW2, again, with me not being in school, and they compiled, alas, came my BLACKPILLING journey. DK invited me to his own server, and it was full of alt-right individuals, and downright Nazis, and fascist. I'm admittedly confused on why they'd let me in, due to me making it apparent I was Blasian, but of course they considered me one of the good ones. I was taught to hate my race. I was also taught to preach Hitler, and consider his ethics morally correct. Believing these people were my friends, I invited them to a small server I still had up. They spread their fascist propaganda there as well. One of my peers, KXCZ, had falsely confessed feeling to me, and we started a relationship. Throughout this relationship, him and his friends would spread Nazi and anti-Semitic propaganda to me. I absorbed it like a sponge, given it was my first introduction to politics. They sent me fabricated sources on the Holocaust being false, Hitler giving good speeches etc., etc. They'd even gotten me to believe I was allowed to be a Nazi as Hitler sometimes accepted and deployed people of my race. They also got me to believe this was a Christian belief and the true way to peace and God. Apart from this, they made me draw my persona in fascist uniforms, as well as my peers. The only thing I was ever known for was being one of the good ones, but also somehow anything but that. I do not want to dive further into the specifics as this is genuinely traumatic and hard to talk about in places other than private DMS, but KXCZ would ignore me for hours, to days on end, randomly block me, and downright extort me to do things. Two other individuals, whom I will name A and D, due to genuine fear they are still stalking M, would introduce me to other forms of politics such as communism, socialism, and the left/right wings in general. I will admit, they did give me genuinely good resources regarding politics, outside of nationalist socialist beliefs, but they did harm me as well. These individuals, and more, worked together to harass me for being mentally deranged, a rancid nymphet, disgusting faggot, and even went as far as sending my suggestive semi-nude photos to people, adding it into troll YouTube videos, and putting it as their PFP. They'd also gotten a mugshot of my mom, and would set that as their PFP as well. I will mention A, D, and KXCZ harassed line/text as well. I just didn't know where to put it in the paragraph, as this is regarding my experience. I just thought it'd be very important to mention. These experiences have formed the way I think today. I no longer hold the views I was extorted and manipulated into believing. Please understand this genuinely stunted my development, and that it truly was the worst time of my life. Worse than being physically assaulted. I'm not exaggerating. I attempted to find ways to commit suicide nearly every day. It didn't help that I was still being neglected and abused IRL. I'd also, by a stroke of my amazing luck, gone homeless and met AT*NY at the same time. They were the only people I had. They were the only people that didn't care about my petty YouTube drama. I loved them to a horrific extent. I asked for far more empathy on this. Nobody would listen because I didn't ever share the specifics and the extent I was abused to. I'm not the same person I was, and even if it isn't the absolute best, I'm in a far better spot than I was before. I'm not an artsy. I also find it incredibly important to mention one of the document contributors, TJ/FarkSilk. TJ did end up radicalizing me further. TJ is an adult as of now and still holds these views to this day. It is only natural to hold them accountable, as they did radicalize me further. It is incredibly unfair to blame me, and me only for my past beliefs. I'd been friends with her for about a year or two up to that point, so I obviously trusted her. It was nearly 4 whole years until she left me over this entire situation. I talked to her about my newfound non-woke and black-pilled beliefs, and she came out and said she agreed. She told me to look into a site that I will link here. Keep in mind, I'm only providing this to show evidence I'm not making this up. I do not have logs to my old account, as I was banned several times. Far as I know, TJ still holds these beliefs to this day. I didn't want to bicker about it because she was one of my best friends. I didn't let it break our friendship due to the savior problems I mentioned beforehand, and essentially, bias. I'm more than desperate to hold on to connections, even if they aren't healthy. It is incredibly unfair for people to dive into my history without diving into the history of the people giving this information. Even if TJ didn't work on this segment directly, TJ has still contributed to this document. I will elaborate on that in the last few segments. Peacemaker. Peacemaker is a sub-design for my Sona, Cupidite. Also, don't draw her with human ears. It's fucking ugly. This character design stemmed from my belief that certain political uniforms could be reclaimed and turned into something positive. Please note that, even if this belief was false and harmful, it did not come from ill will. I was incredibly uneducated in the topic of fascism, and I believed due to my experiences with these bad actors, that I could turn a symbolization of it into my own. I failed to recognize the harm in this due to my own bias. I do not believe it is smart to reclaim these uniforms now, especially considering I'm not Jewish. I do have deceased family members who have fought in WW2, but it still doesn't justify that belief. It doesn't do much for those harmed in retrospect. The claim that Peacemaker is based on Ho-Ring Goring is a lie. However, not only did I not know who this was before it was brought up, I gave evidence that this was nothing but a stretch. Peacemaker was not designed by me, and her design was color picked directly from Tyler the Creator's album, Call Me If You Get Lost. Yummy and Juni claim we had to saturate the colors, but Pearl Grey uniform was unique to him, but Peacemaker's uniform is literally blue, not grey. Adding on, if you have to warp or distort the colors of this person's uniform, it probably isn't inspired by them. I also did not draw a Mercedes-Benz logo on her hat. I do not know why it would be a plausible assumption that I drew a car logo on a character's hat. This was meant to be a peace symbol, and it was drawn incorrectly. Nazi or not, it isn't common knowledge. If it is, not everyone knows that. I have changed the armband off of Peacemaker, as well as the hat's shape. I will not be retiring this character, as I have made the necessary changes. Regarding antisemitism, in the past it would have been due to the same reasons aforementioned. Yes, I have said antisemitic things, and more, in the past, and I apologize. Again, these things were very much normalized around me, but I recognize now it is wrong. The most recent claims stem from my belief that the Israeli government is harmful. This is not an anti-Semitic belief, as it does not target all Jewish people. It is a very common belief that Israel's government is corrupt. I had also made my username Mossad Agent a few months ago, but this again correlates to my hatred of Zionism. Some people use this as a claim of me being a Zionist, which literally makes no sense. You cannot be a Zionist and a Nazi. They are conflicting beliefs. I'm also neither of these things. Despite my past, I do not hate Jewish people. I do not hate any race or ethnicity for that matter, and I only have respect and love in my heart for all. I have taken accountability for my troubled past, and I have not repeated those mistakes in over 7 months. Juni and Yummy claim I've lied regarding my improvement, but this is nothing but a lie. Not only have they drawn Nazi uniforms themselves, Yummy has acknowledged I've changed and made improvements from my past. Yummy's Experomenstant/Alexis Webb. I may slip up and make a Jewish joke from time to time, but these truly are lapses and do not reflect my personal views. I'm trying, and I have improved greatly. It used to be the staple of my humor, making jokes every day. Then I started to make jokes every week. Then I started to make it every few months. This is proof I'm changing, and I'm growing out of that humor. I apologize sincerely to anyone that has felt offended by my actions, and I will assure you that I have made significant improvements. Earlier this year, I referred to both YummiCactus and Graceful as the T-slur. It was not the best decision regardless of what I'm about to mention. However, I went way too far regarding what I'd said to Graceful. I will talk about what I said to Graceful first. It started off with me and Graceful's drama. I don't want to go back because I truly don't have the energy, but she had been very disrespectful to me in the past. My ex-peers at this time did not like her. As a result, they, specifically and notably, TJ's girlfriend, Vi, would call her the T-slur, make fun of her for her birth genitalia, and I ended up joining in. I regret this, and I forever will. It genuinely makes me feel grossed out looking at this screenshot, and I'm still not entirely sure why I participated in this. The influence in this part of my life was incredibly big, and I would say anything to be approved. I'm very aware my words were harmful, and I feel nothing but guilt about what I said. I'm not genuinely transphobic though, and truthfully I never have been. I'm transgender myself. Thankfully, I have since apologized to Graceful in DMs, and she did accept my apology. I understand if she still feels harmed by this, but claiming I never changed from this behavior or felt remorse is false. You are allowed to be hurt by what I said, whether I meant it or not. It is counterproductive to publicly purposely not bring up the fact I apologized, and we talked it out privately. However, this was solved long ago. I will also bring this up. Not only has Graceful offered to say the N-word to me while being non-black. Obviously, as seen here, I say redacted lol, and then they say they would. I just pointed out as it is slightly hypocritical. She has also called Prim a faggot tranny retard. As far as I know, Graceful is not neurodivergent either. Edit the 11th of October 25. Graceful has told me she is neurodivergent. Now for Yummy. I called him a Texan T-slur as an edgy joke. Nothing more, nothing less. I have apologized for this, and I have expressed he is more than allowed to feel uncomfortable. I will also note, Vi, the person who encouraged me to make these transphobic jokes, leaked this and worked with Yummy out of anger. I'm not trying to shift the blame, because I said it, and it came out of my mouth, but I do believe it is important to mention the pattern of people close to me enabling me, then getting mad I haven't changed from their harm against me. Yummy has also, however, referred to someone as a homophobic slur. I mention this because, if they can do these things, and not be transphobic, it would only be fair to have the same logic for me. Everyone was very immature at this time. I just went way over the limit, and I acknowledge that. I take full responsibility for what I've said, and I will not, and have not made this mistake since. The last thing I'd like to bring up is 2023. I'd said very transphobic things to this person, similarly to Graceful's case. I was very angered due to them making allegations about me falsely grooming Tofuxks, and my groomers fueled this rage. I have recognized this wasn't okay long ago, and have apologized for this more than one time. This person seems to reject my apology every time though, and I cannot change that. This person goes into multiple servers, even as recent as 2 months ago, showing people I did this. There's not much more I can do than apologize, and I've done that. I apologize to everyone involved, and I will assure you I have improved from this, and it does not reflect my genuine views. There's not much to say in this segment regarding the racist things I've said, due to me explaining it in this narcissism segment. I will mention the claims of Safari being racist though, as well as the claims I enabled it, starting with the claims of me enabling racism. For context, I again am Blasian. I'm allowed to have the opinions I have on the N-word, as I'm a direct victim of this being weaponized against me. I do not personally care, as long as it is made known this person respects who I am, as well as my culture, and gets consent beforehand. I'm never one to expose what goes on privately or misconstrue allegations. However, when you step out of those boundaries and on top of that, betray me and say hypocritical things about me, I have more than a reason to come out. Winter/Ivifanite said more than just the N-word. They've called me ugly because of my black features, have expressed discomfort in general around black people, and have made weird comments regarding ratamixing. They have expressed disgust to a partner they had in the past because they were too ghetto. Winter has also expressed only dating this person because it was funny. I did not directly enable this. In fact, I told their ex-partner what they'd said. I have been grossed out about this and the way they treated me due to my race for a while, but I didn't say anything because they were genuinely one of my only friends. This person is very much aware of right and wrong. I should not have to baby them into not believing a person is ghetto due to their accent. I'm also allowed to be uncomfortable with that. Winter has also threatened to report their Mexican ex the ICE for being a femboy behind their back. No, this is not a joke. Let me make it known, I have nothing to do with this person who commented speaking about it directly to me. Me and Blake were not friends at this time, which means I could not have enabled this. They have been discriminatory to minorities completely on their own and have been saying the N-word way before we'd have reconnected. Again, more baseless claims. Regarding Safari, they are someone that has only said this word in private with people who encouraged it. I simply just did not care. Clearly they aren't racist because their partner of over a year was literally black. A point used for speculation Safari was racist is this image. This is not Safari. This is a picture of one of their viral friends. I'm very confused on how this could have gotten mixed up, as the people who leaked this literally have seen their face. If this image has been spreading around uncensored, and we know it has, because it didn't originally have a red bar over it, then it is by definition another case of defamation, which is highly illegal. This person has no idea who Yummy and Juni are, and did not once consent to having accusations like that tied to his face. Not only is that not a picture of Safari, either way, it was confidential and posted without consent. It does not matter how bad we supposedly are, that does not give you the authority to post private images of us to thousands of people. We are still minors. You are not the police or the FBI. That is not your job. Before anyone brings up the Prim Darksing claims, Prim posted that photo, and more publicly. Safari has never posted an image of their face, let alone body anywhere except my DMs or private servers. Overall, it is something that they are growing out of and is working on stopping. They are not racist and never will be. We have actually had a significant amount of conversations about racism being stupid, as well as the concept of slurs equals discrimination being stupid. It's a little weird that these people are angry at my views and what's occurred in general, because as far as I know, they do not have a lick of melanin in their skin. The only person involved that is black is Donnie, and this person does not like me. Donnie has also literally encouraged Safari to say the N-word in VC. I obviously don't have proof, as it was in voice calls, but there are multiple witnesses. Everyone involved in the making of this document besides Milo, Graceful, Yummy, and Juni have encouraged Safari to say this either verbally or in text. They don't care, but they know that the community will care, and that is why it was exposed. This entire segment has false information or edited screenshots. I'm not a lolicon. I have never drawn lolicon. I have been subject to consuming lolly content due to the former predatory adults in my life, but that is all. First off, I will address me following this account. I followed this account due to one of my mutuals commissioning them. As far as I know, this account is not a lolicon account. This person draws all of the characters on their account the same way. The torsos are long and extended. They also draw commissions they get, notably of over 18 characters, in the same way. Yummy and Juni have fabricated screenshots, falsely censoring them and making it out to be NSFW. The only thing showing above is a belly button. This character is literally fully clothed. This was censored out of pure malice. This is quite literally fabricated evidence, and also directed people to harass this innocent artist. On top of that, they have also included vent art that TJ/Farksilk has leaked, falsely claiming for it to be lolicon. This drawing was not only private, but it was not NSFW or suggestive whatsoever. I drew this during an episode where I was impure aggressing. This character was fully clothed and simply had a pacifier. If you see something sexual in that, there is something heavily wrong with you that shows you have moral intent than I supposedly do. If I did this to begin with, it should be a cause of concern to begin with. No fully stable child, which was also a child victim, draws herself as a toddler in suggestive situations. No, I'm also even more angered at the fact TJ leaked this, because she has expressed she does not care about Lali or pro-ship. This entire segment was malicious. Regarding Nicopera, me being a big fan is a downright lie. I have actually expressed the exact opposite in Yama's DMs. I just think the art is cute. Nothing less, nothing more. I have done research just for this document, and have researched both the artist and the art. The ages of these characters are not confirmed by the creator of them, Saori. The evidence they provided was a fan-made wiki. I don't know how to get this across, but these characters just don't look like children. It's pretty fucking obvious they aren't 9 months old. It is mainly their slim figure, which is incredibly common in Japan due to their genetics, and the fact they dress in Lalita style made dresses. It isn't a peculiar subject. All of the characters range in the same height range, with the MC being 5'7". For context, he is 1 inch taller than me. The shortest character is suspected to be a self-insert of Saori, earliest art of Saori, which looks nearly identical to Shigeya. Overall, I don't really care. I again, very much hate art style discourse. The art is cute, and that is why I've had it as my profile. Me setting my profile as Lalita isn't a good point either. First of all, I'm literally Japanese. Lalita is a fashion style. It derives from the mindset of rebelling against adulthood, and the clothes are inspired off of the idea of childhood. It is not dressing up as a child, and it is not inherently sexual. Again, not a big deal. I'm Japanese. I do not appreciate paper white people telling me I'm a pedophile or liking something innocent, a part of my heritage promote. It's just annoying. Last thing I'd like to bring up are my Lali jokes. When I made those jokes, they were always towards consenting parties or people who had done it to me. There was absolutely no sexual intent, as those jokes were only made to make fun of those types of people. If they had an issue, they should have said something about it. TLDR, there is no evidence of me being a lolicon, and the evidence that is out is fabricated. I have never drawn lolicon, and if I have, with me being normalized to that due to my assault, you probably shouldn't be yelling at me for it. I have also publicly and privately condemned lolicons. April 2025. Safari's behalf. This isn't something I've personally wanted leaked publicly, as it's something I've recovered from and grown to be frankly disgusted by in recent times, but alas, it can't go unmentioned. From ages 12 to 14, and bleeding into early months of this year due to a relapse, I was, and there's no good way to say this, probably the youngest person I knew that had ever, even if occasionally, consumed lolly content. This was not inherently pornographic, but due to the influence of adults that had been a part of my life previously even up until last year, I was seriously convinced that I was into that sort of thing. I was, similar to the abuse I clearly followed in the footsteps of, berated, manipulated, and blackmailed with nude images of myself into doing what older men wanted on the internet, while in truth I had actually cried in disgust almost nightly for multiple years, because of my infatuation with these things. I was groomed, forced to indulge in disgusting content, and sexually abused. There is no better way to describe it. This also had some relation to the Blue Whale Challenge, if anybody is knowledgeable of what that was, and sadly still is. I do not understand why this had to be made public the way it did, and I believe the way it's framed is possibly the most disgusting disregard for the safety of someone my age either way. And because I don't really know where else to bring it up, there are images near this segment of Safari making jokes. Safari is a victim. Yummy has tonight and disregarded accusations of then 17-year-old Donnie/Chipper being inappropriate to a then 14-year-old Safari because of supposed lack of evidence, and as seen here, bias after him and his partner manipulated me. The evidence and accounts were sent. However, Yummy disregarded this and came up with their own conclusions. It is ironic because as seen all throughout this document, he believes other victims when given hearsay. Example, Prim. Another example, when Yummy was approached with CP accusations regarding me. It was hearsay, yet he believed them immediately. As for the accused, here is more insight. Most of the instances happened in VC, so I cannot get evidence, but Donnie has recognized the age gap wasn't the best and that is more than enough. Donnie would constantly make jokes about grooming Safari, as well as raping them. They would also tend to isolate Safari and make them only speak to them. When other people joined VCs to talk with them, they would get upset and leave. Safari was born in 2009. Donnie was born in 2007. The issue with this, if any, is that Donnie's birthday is at the start of the year, whilst Safari's is at the end. This makes it reasonable to estimate it as 3 years, rather than 2. Safari was 14, and was not turning 15 for another 5 or so months, while Donnie was already 17. We don't think that Donnie is a groomer, but they were being incredibly weird to Safari and again, did acknowledge their age gap. Donnie has also lied to Yummy, and claimed they were 16 at this time. The entire reason this was brought up to begin with, is because Yummy lied, and said I blackmailed Donnie for coming out about what they did. Donnie claimed that I darksked Prim for some reason, even though they participated in sending their face and whatnot. They cold contacted us at any time to shut down the accusations, yet refused. Donnie has also lied, and has claimed they blocked Safari due to them saying slurs when mentioned previously. Donnie directly encouraged this. Donnie has had a habit of telling white people to say the N-word because they thought it was funny. All we wanted was for Donnie to apologize for their behavior towards Safari, whether they meant it in a gross way or not. It was still incredibly uncomfortable for all parties, especially the alleged victim. It isn't hard to say sorry. I don't know why they dedicated an entire segment to someone being uncomfortable. Just clarify, apologize, and move on. I truly don't want to make an entire segment dedicated to other people's faults, but I will say this, regarding me befriending people who draw taboo things, it is not my business. It is incredibly gross to expose me and other children to this content when they have purposely been shielding me from this due to the fact I'm not of age and it could get them in trouble. I do not care what my adult friends do in their free time. As long as they aren't physically or mentally harming human beings or creatures, then I don't care. I do not want to be exposed to these things. I don't follow their oh so evil alt accounts for a reason. We do not bond off of that, and I will not be leaving them because of this. They have shown me an amount of love and respect none of you ever will, and that's that. As far as I know, one of the people mentioned, Muppy, dislikes me due to the allegations on me anyways, which is ironic. It doesn't even matter much anymore due to that. I do not have to support what they do in private. It is how they choose to cope with the trauma they've been through. You do not know these people, or their story. It's also weird to assume I knew they drew these things in the first place. I did know about Muppy, but that is all, and I only clarified they were not a zoo, and drew CNC due to them being a victim. I don't really have anything else to say here. Protecting the children includes me too. albeit, I'm incredibly confused by the guilt-tripping claims in the document, but hey. It's the account. Expressing negative emotions during stressful circumstances is not equivalent to guilt-tripping. In fact, I explicitly reassured most people, if not everyone involved, of me having nothing but good intent. I'm allowed to be upset during conflicts. Not everything is guilt-tripping or manipulation. I also do not suicide bait. The times I have said I was going to end my life, I was, and I did attempt. If I didn't, then the people around me got me to stop. It is simply another sign that I need mental help, and it isn't something you should shame me for if you know I cannot get it. It also is not always your job to help, and I fully respect that. Claiming I'm not struggling because of your perspective is disrespectful though. Regarding mental health, I thought it'd be relevant to mention here. My diagnosis is none of your business. I have talked to therapists and psychiatrists. I have been prescribed Abilify, a medicine specifically for my bipolar symptoms. They have been trying to diagnose me with literally anything, but my family just has not taken me. I have not been checked out mentally in over a year. The professionals I have spoken to my face have told me it is very likely that I have both borderline personality disorder and bipolar 1. And since I'm quite confused on the speculation regarding my diagnosis of borderline. I'd argue it'd be even more apparent considering my history. Take my history of getting tangled up with fascists and generally harmful parties, or hell the fact I keep getting harmed and or abused by people. I'm impressionable and prone to being manipulated. It's like a staple. You could even consider my constant breakdowns and, admittedly, embarrassing spirals. I'd argue that makes this more apparent. I also would like to point out I'd gotten in trouble for privately telling Juni that I didn't believe Yummy had OSDD, and I was, of course, ostracized. My mental health concerns are my own. Stop speaking on a story you know nothing about. It isn't your job to tell me what I have and what I don't have. You aren't professionals either. P.S. to Glass Raven, you like the coffin of Andy and Lele, an incest game, and you called 14-year-old me pedobait for being groomed by fascists. Keep your filthy mouth shut. I was going to review the darksking section more thoroughly, but I decided I would leave it out the video just in case. Again, a quick summary, I have been taken out of public school due to Yummy and Juni communicating with ex-friends from there. I was harassed out of school, and I now have to do online. The people that gave them this information have harmed me and still continue to this day. This is not the first time Yummy and Juni have invaded and frankly jeopardized people's in real life for their shitty YouTube career. Not only that, but the police did come to my house due to them, and I assume bystanders and anonymous people online spam reporting me to my local police department and subvertives. The officer questioned me regarding dating a pet 15 and having multiple amounts of CS saved to my device that wasn't even the original allegation. I showed the officer my gallery as he'd asked, specifically from May, but I showed the entire thing just in case, and he believed me, based on what I showed as well as the context given. Where I live though, my phone had to be taken for evidence though, to ensure nobody was harmed. At least you can say the police were doing their job. Alongside the accusers proving to want to cause harm to me, lacking a sense of supposed justice seems to be prominent as well. The people involved have constantly treated this as a lol. This person is gross. I've never liked them. Instead of this person is really harmful and people need to stay away from them because I'm afraid they'll be hurt by them situation. The handling of this has gotten me and my loved ones a numerous amount of death threats. Lynching threats. If you don't know what lynching is, it is a method the Ku Klux Klan used to kill African Americans, and generally disturbing, in-depth threats. There was never a disclaimer to not harass me or the people associated with me, likely unsuspecting of my alleged harm to others. I'm allowed to report everyone involved with this. I'm still a minor, and thus very much counts as harassment and libel. There was also no legal clarification at the start, and that is a major cause for concern. You cannot accuse a 16-year-old of several sex crimes and get away with it. P.S. Harassing my, notably minor, friends for associating with me, a supposed predator is absolutely disgusting. There is no way I can sugarcoat this without sounding rude, but this is anything but productive. They have only been messaging me in fear as a result. If you really cared for future victims, you wouldn't be berating them. It is incredibly gross. The only thing this person said was to be patient and wait until my side gets out. They never deliberately said hey you fucking suck Daisy is the only right one. Nor did they say anything similar. They also wished well to mine and hoped for their mental health to get better. As a result, they were harassed by everyone. They were sent multiple threats, and it came to the point people were hoping that their medical conditions killed them. I may come back and edit this, but I don't know what else to say other than I'm disappointed and disgusted. Nobody in this situation is morally correct. In fact, the exact opposite. I apologize for my harsh wording, but all of you fucking suck. I cannot hold up the professional facade anymore. I'm a person and I'm tired of me and people I know being treated like we aren't. You cannot treat people like this and get away with it. This is more than internet stuff, as my in real life has genuinely been affected by this. I was going to include a few more things relevant to the negligence tab, but truthfully it'll just nuke my device, so I'll stop it here. TL, Dr. Yummy, JuniDrawz, and several other people involved with the making of this has either purposely misconstrued things, or downright lied all for clicks online. They have also been caught saying downright disgusting things about me, and Yummy and Juni personally has leaked sensitive information about me, like my address, and my not safe for work. That's all I will say, because that is all I want to say. These are not people you should be trusting whatsoever, and they have made my life a living hell. Again, for the 1000th time, recommend you read my document, to understand a little more. I may also go over it fully, on a stream. In conclusion, this situation is not what it has been, and likely will continue to be made out to be. It was not handled as professionally or as carefully as it could have been from all involved parties, but I'm hopeful it will be resolved, no matter how long that may take. I'm not a predator, groomer, or any of the sorts. I will never hold this title. I would never stoop to that level, no matter the circumstances. This is a situation built on misinformation, ignorance, and, frankly, incompetence. I have made mistakes, frankly more than I'd like to admit, but I do take full accountability for them. This includes my negligence, past apathy, irresponsibility. Despite what the accusers claim, I have improved from this. I will continue to improve from this as well. I have been on this journey for quite a while now, and it will not stop, because of this situation. Safari is also not a predator or groomer. They harmed me, and they may have harmed others, to an admittedly incomparable degree. However, they have also taken the appropriate steps to begin improving from this behavior quite a while ago, and they are still improving and getting better. I will be cutting off close contact to those below the age of 15 to ensure safety, and prevent any further irresponsibility. I will have some peers that are 14 due to my long past with them, but I will not, and have not, treat them the same as my older peers, when I'm 80. Around this time next year I will make sure my personal spaces are strictly 16+. I will also verify the ages of those involved, if I have any discussion of anything remotely inappropriate as of now, no matter the circumstances. This is how it should be. It is only smart, mature, and appropriate to take these precautions. Regarding the other parties, legal action will be taken against them. There was absolutely no need for this to be handled the way it was. The police are involved, and my phone has been searched through. They quite literally found nothing on my device, which means the report was false. I will be taking a break. A long one too. I do not want your advice. Nothing any of you has ever said has gotten me in a good spot in my life. Only worse. I will be doing what I want to do, and what I think is best. You may email me, or comment for my Discord, but that is all. I will also make communication strictly for commissions. I do not wish to rebuild any new friendships, or reconnect any old ones. I'm frankly tired. I do not crave new connections anymore. I do not want to talk to anyone outside of the people I already have anymore. Thank you for watching this, if you did.